Howdy there. Hello there. Hi, y'all. Guten Tag. Shalom. Buenos dias. Just making stuff up on the spot about how to say hello. But buenas tardes. That is relevant because I left you with salsa music. Wonderful, beautiful salsa music. So, hello. 6 o'clock. It's May 19th. It's 2021. This podcast is called Law and Disorder. More precisely, Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder. And I will be your host for the next 45 minutes if you stick around. If you don't, hey, you snoozes, you loses. Hello, Rachel and Kathy. How are you? Nice to see you both. That wasn't enough caffeine to keep me going. All right. Hey, Chris and Becky. Hello, hello, hello. So, just Chris probably knows I didn't ride a bicycle today because he sees I didn't post anything. So he made sure 20 miles in the morning, boom, bang, make me feel bad all day long. But let me tell you how my day went. It's self-explanatory. I got up in the morning and I thought I should ride. That's at 6:30 a.m. I thought, no, here's what I'm going to do. I got a plan. I'm going to drive to the AA meeting. That gets out at 8. I come home, get on my bike, hit a couple of hours worth, and then I got a luncheon at 11:30. Well, here's the thing. After a hard rain day after day, for me to bike for just a couple of hours means I got to stay on the streets, go north. It's a little bit more challenging. On a normal day, I could go south to the lake, but that ain't going to happen when it's been raining. So I forego that route and I did the thing and I'm like, no way I'm going to make it to lunch over at Montfort and Beltline if I go bicycling because there's no safe way to get there on my bicycle. So I wasn't going to incorporate that into my ride. And Chris is bragging now. So it's not enough for him to let everybody know that he did 20-something miles. He got to let you know he did it fast, I'm going to get a ringer in here that bikes at 19 miles an hour to post like Chris does, just to humble him. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink, nod, nod. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about the music while I'm waiting for Chris to come up with yet another way to brag in his own discreet, not over the top way that he does. Yes, I did. Yes, I did what? So, for those of you on YouTube, you're like, who's Chris? Who's Becky? Who's all these people, right? I'm talking to people on Facebook, and I apologize. You can't see them, but since you're on YouTube, I'll read it out loud. So Chris went ahead and posted the name of a guy apparently that, as he's always told me, can go much faster. I guess he's telling me I should incorporate him into posting here so that I could, perhaps humiliate Chris. I don't know. So Chris will not focus on our show. We will not let his untoward attitude towards bicycling and humiliating everybody else be the keystone of this show. No. We'll move on. So tonight is meditation night. It's Wednesday night. So at 6:55, I hit the Zoom, sometimes earlier. And then 7 o'clock, whoever's there, we start to meditate. And we meditate for about 30 minutes. And then we do a little closure stuff. So anyways, let me tell you a little bit about the music. So I was sitting at my computer today. No, wait, let me finish the day. So I couldn't go bicycling. Then I got a call from the AC guy. Hey, man, can I finish the job at your house? Are you there? So I say, yeah, come on. So he and his helper showed up and went to work on the AC in the attic. So I'm like, I had to be there, let him in and everything. Then lunchtime, lunch appointment. So I go, I'm going to be there at 11:30. That's what time. I get there and one, restaurant's closed permanently, Houston's, closed, Houston's. Two, while I was en route, apparently I got a text saying I won't be there till noon. So I'm knocking down a half hour, right? And I got to find another restaurant. So boom, shakalaka, I picked out Kenny's Italian Village, right? And so we went there and I had eggplant parmesan. Then afterwards, I come home. The AC guy's trying to finish up, so I don't really want to blow out of here. I'm going to have to pay him when he's done and stuff, right? So I never got out of here. I never got on my bicycle. And then it's going to rain from now until the end of times. So that may have been my last ride, may have been Saturday. That may be the last time I get the ride before the heavens open up and the rain comes down and washes everybody out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain, and the itsy bitsy people went up the earth again. All right, so that's how I got diverted from what I would have preferred, which would have been to do a little bicycle. In fact, I wouldn't have minded riding with Chris, although I couldn't have stuck with him. But from my house to where he bikes is perilous after rain because it's a creek, it's muddy, it's got debris. It's not cool. But I have a new garden, and I hope that it rains tonight enough that I don't have to water because I've been waiting for the rain today because I assumed it would rain and I wouldn't have to get out with my hose. That's not happening. All right, back to the topic of the show. There is no topic. All right, we got rid of that. Let's talk about the music. So you all know I favor percussion. And so today I listed some percussion music, which for me is often either Afro-Cuban or salsa music. And a 1-2 cha-cha-cha should be, for anybody old enough, you know that 1-2 cha-cha-cha, 3-4 cha-cha-cha, right? So you know there's a rhythm to 1-2 cha-cha-cha. So I hope that's all I had to put was 1-2 cha-cha-cha. And in your head, if you read that, you thought to yourself, ah. So Giovanni Hidalgo, tremendous percussionist, and then the Mambo Legends is very cool. Eddie Palmieri is a piano player with Fania All Stars, a tremendous Puerto Rican label, and La Malanga is the song. And then you see this other band playing, Eddie Montalvo, Johnny Dandy Rodriguez, and Orestes Vilato. And they take not magnificent solos, but it was kind of cool. So, very nasty after the rain. That's right. All right. So the music that I left you today, I promise you, if you hit that after the gig is up, if you will be dancing, bailando. You will bailando if you listen to the music. You won't be able to help yourself. First, you might be sitting down. You'll hit the button, and you'll be listening to it. For instance. Yeah, brother. Bailando. All right. Where did I leave off? I got distracted. I know it's distracting me. I have a cat crying about Lord knows what, is crying out in the living room loud enough for me to hear, distracting. I have no clue what possesses cats to decide when, for no reason at all, they start whining. Makes me want to look. A bit of drumming on your knees, right? Chorus, chorus. And then you should stand up. Oh, the cat that's making the noise isn't even the cat I thought it was. Hey, you, hush. That didn't help at all. Giovanni! I'm sorry. Go check your cat. He walked in, just making noise, didn't have anything in his mouth. And then he attacked Velvet. Uncool. They went running after each other. Now the crying is done. All right, so I left you some music to dance with. I'll give you a meditation in between, or you can listen to that before you meditate. Whatever. I thought you'd like it. I think you will like it. You just have to give yourself a chance. A lot of Anglos are not particularly fond of or are used to or exposed enough to salsa music to have made a commitment to it in their life. Because I've always been a percussionist, I've always been drawn to music that heavily relies upon percussion, which very little rock music does. And as a result, I became very familiar with a lot of music from Latin countries and African countries. And as you may recall, I posted a whole thing of African music a couple of weeks back. Today, salsa, Latin music. So there used to be a great radio show on every night around 6 on public radio. This guy was cool, man. He was good. He was bilingual, and he put on Latin music and explained it in English and Spanish. Extraordinary show. And then sometimes he would host a live little combo at a local bar. Lots of Anglos have no hip movement, and that may preclude Toad. Toad is rock percussion. Yeah. And a lot of Anglos have trouble with the hips. My problem, Ray Dean, is that my hips are no longer connected to my head or my shoulders. It was valuable when we were younger to be able to move the entire body in quasi combination with each other. If you wanted to look good at at a set, at a party, it helped if when you moved your hips, your head did the right thing, your shoulders, maybe your hands, whatever. If when you dance, as I might now, and your head's doing one thing, shoulders maybe another, and the hips completely went down the road, then you're like, yeah, I'm not going to be dancing at that wedding. Hell no. So that's my attitude. I got that attitude. I'm sticking with it. So where do we go from there? Well, I have tried for the past year plus to help you with some of the legal matters that have been prominent in our government. And most of you heard the news that the New York City, I believe it is, district attorney, I don't think it's the state, I think it's the city district attorney has, and I've not heard of this before, but maybe there's a reason for it. I'm going to guess a reason in a second, has advised the Trump organization that it is now under criminal investigation. Well, why would you do that? You don't normally have any obligation unless you're interrogating. And then there's, in order for somebody to be confessing, for instance, they have to be in custody, not able to leave, and they have to be not advised and questioned. So I suspect what's been happening is they've been interviewing ranking organization people as part of a civil investigation, which can result in fines. Could be millions of dollars in fines, as happens to some big organization. Could be hundreds, could be thousands. We don't know. But clearly, we know there's been investigation going on, and we know that Vance, he's a federal prosecutor, or is he the state prosecutor? Anyways, he went to court. I think he's the state prosecutor, and everybody wants to investigate Trump, And he fought for 6 months and got the tax records have to be released to his prosecuting office. So I suspect that what has happened, I like to explain the legal maneuvers, is that since they've been interviewing people, it was a civil case, they did not have to give them a Miranda right because there was no criminal investigation. They weren't a suspect. They weren't being asked to make incriminating statements. So they weren't advised of their right to counsel. Of course, they knew they had a right to counsel. It's an organization. Soon as they started getting subpoenas, civil, criminal, otherwise, trust me, lawyers looked at that stuff immediately and told them how to proceed. So I'm thinking that to be safe, the prosecutor's office wanted them to know that if they're making statements now going forward, that may be against their penal interest, their freedom interest. It's one thing to threaten somebody's pocketbook. Criminal investigation threatens somebody's ability to move about because incarceration may follow. Criminal conviction, even without incarceration, can be fairly onerous. So we've got that going on. Meantime, you've got minutes ago, they finished the vote in the House of Representatives of the U.S. government, and they voted 200 and something to 175 to move a bill forward which will investigate the January 6th events. It would be a commission, a bipartisan commission. It ain't going nowhere, but at least interestingly enough, 30-something Republicans participated by voting yes. Okay, so then it'll go to the Senate, and Mitch McConnell will do everything he can to kill it. Joe Manchin will be a linchpin. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not real optimistic. When people who were condemning the president are now suggesting that, one, it never happened, two, if it happened, it wasn't who we said it was, and three, the president certainly had nothing to do with it. I mean, if you've gone from indicting him in a speech on the floor of the Senate or the floor of the House or in front of CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and now, a few months later, you can completely recant or pretend as if you never said it, that's an interesting turn of events. So I'm not optimistic that those people are in any way, shape, or form prepared to in any way do a mea culpa. I'm sorry, let's get this investigated. Kevin McCarthy is believed to be the least enthusiastic person about all this because we know that Kevin McCarthy communicated with Trump during the January 6th events. We know from another congressperson, a woman, who spoke to Kevin McCarthy that day, that he said he had just gotten off the phone with Trump and yelled at Trump to call off these people, and that Trump was not inclined to. First, he said it was Antifa, and Kevin McCarthy told him, no, man, these your people. See, Kevin McCarthy knew who they were. So then he said, well, I guess they're more upset about the election than you are, Kevin. So in other words, go screw yourself, right? So that's so Kevin McCarthy, he doesn't want to have to testify now in front of his congressional peers about the conversation that he had with Trump, which there's no reason it wouldn't be exposed at this time if a commission subpoenaed him and asked him to testify. He'd have a hard time taking the fifth because he didn't do anything. He can't protect himself from criminal prosecution when he's not a criminal suspect. Trump might be the criminal suspect. So he can't really assert that his testimony might implicate him. Just saying. Or maybe it will. Who knows? We can only hope that a congressman, or is it Senator Gosar? Can't remember if he's a congressman or a senator. We can only hope that Gosar and some of the others will end up getting dragged into this investigation, and that somehow their reputations are dragged through the slime and the mud where their reputations belong, and that when they come out on the other end, it's not likely their reputations will be so dirtied they wouldn't have a chance to be a reelected dog catcher. I was talking to a friend of mine, very conservative guy, at lunch today. And we don't agree on a lot politically, but we agree on some things, like term limits. You know, people who know me know that I have advocated wholeheartedly the removal of the term limits for Congress and Senate and I've always said Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they've all overstayed their welcome. They should have been term limited out. Supreme Court judges should be term limited out. Federal judges should be term limited out. There should be a cleaning of house that's not taking place. He and I agreed on that, despite our disparity in our ideology about which way the country should go. We did agree that these people, whether they're Republicans or whether they're Democrats, have long stuck around. I should say, have stuck around too long. It would be nice if they would just pack their bags and go home. Now, as I don't like Margaret Green Taylor or Laura Boebert, he doesn't like and Tlaib. I like them. I think they're articulate. I'm not pro-Israeli. I was years ago. I'm not anymore. I don't see the value in it. I'm still angry that when a Jewish synagogue was shot up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, about a year ago or so, that the Israeli government was silent because Trump was in office and he was handling the purse strings, and Israel gets a crap load of money from us. And some of it may be helpful, where it's in our best interest to fund a military force that's not ours in the Middle East, where things are always so unstable. But I'm not paying for people to blow up buildings in the middle of a neighborhood and say, well, we gave an hour. So you gave that building an hour. And we know that because the Associated Press and everybody had offices in there. And their people have come out and said, yeah, the landlord came and said, everybody get out. You got 1 hour, and then the Israelis are going to bomb this place into the Stone Age. Well, here was the problem. Of course, a lot of work that these people had done had to be left behind. Their equipment destroyed, their files destroyed. Now, the ostensibly the purpose was to attack a Hamas intelligence post. I'm thinking Raiden and Tebby, man. You went into a foreign country that was where there were hostages, Israeli hostages being held by kidnappers with the protection of the leader of the country. Okay, you went in with precision and took out most of the hostage takers. I don't remember if we lost any hostages, but it was whatever the damage, the collateral damage was so low that the Raiden and Tebby became quite famous. So you can go in and surgically strike in an airport, but in a neighborhood where when the 6-story building comes down, forget if everybody got out. What about everybody down below? Did you tell everybody walking around the neighborhood? Did you tell the people in the building next to it where debris crashed down? I don't know. I suspect everybody didn't get the memo, right? So, I'm not contributing. That's our money, and it should be used wisely. And I don't know that it's being used wisely when it's used to destroy willy-nilly. And that even if I buy your story about Hamas being in the building, I don't necessarily believe that, but I'm willing to argue for the sake of argument that there was a Hamas intelligence office in the building. Then send your people in and take them out, and then go back home and leave the building alone. The reason for taking out the entire building with all the media offices and everything was pure intimidation. Uh, Anybody who knows anything about tactics knows that when you overkill on anything, you are essentially sending a message. It's always, that's what it is. Otherwise, why overkill? I mean, you could do it because you're simply cruel, but then you'd put me in a position of accusing the Israeli government of being cruel. I wouldn't want to do that. So, no, what I'm saying is from a tactical point of view, they like to meet force with far greater force. Hey, if it's the battlefield, that's one thing. Civilian population, I don't sign that. So, anyways, this is this friend of mine. He doesn't think necessarily the MGT and LB are crazy, and I don't think AOC and Tlaib are crazy. So there you go. Ideologically, after we agreed on term limits, we started moving in separate directions. He doesn't particularly like Biden. I hate Trump, so that was a no-brainer. But he's vaccinated. His wife's vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. So we have things in common. We have things that we could argue about. I'm careful with my friends like that, really not to argue. I ask pointed questions. Like one of the questions I'm asking my conservative friends is, what do you think is behind the movement by the Republicans in Texas, Tennessee, and other states to deregulate gun carrying, to remove limitations on gun carrying, so that these states, Texas included, are saying you no longer need to be licensed to carry openly or concealed. You simply have to be a citizen of the state and not be a prohibited possessor under federal law. I mean, at a time when murders seem to be going up, gun murders, and then you've got all these states, and they're all Republican, where they're saying, you know what, what's missing in our state is a relaxing of all the gun laws. At a time when cops are being killed at a pace I would guess is on to beat any previous year. I haven't looked. I'm not proofreading, or what do you call it, fact checking. And I'm going out on a limb and saying, if this ain't one of the worst years for police officers getting shot, and I use police officers getting shot as an example, because a lot of conservatives could care less how many blacks you kill, or how many whites or Hispanics or women or whatever, right? Or crazy people or sane people. They're pretty convinced that if a police officer kills you, you probably had it coming. So let's leave them out of the argument. Let's just look at the toll being done to law enforcement officers across America, and we see that there's a significant number of violent assaults with a handgun being against these police officers. So if you just remove those civilian murders that you don't care about for whatever reason, it doesn't touch your heart, then you're the kind of person who should be touched certainly by the law enforcement officers being shot, killed, maimed, and man, it's bad news. I mean, guys are going out to homes and getting shot standing at the front door. If you don't believe me, you're not reading the newspapers. Pulling a car over and the driver gets out and starts shooting. Then we're in a dilemma, because then we tell the police, well, you're over aggressive. You shouldn't be so aggressive when you pull somebody over. But they're all seeing the same videos you're seeing, where somebody stepped out of a car and opened fire on the police. Or if the video is not available to us, it's often used in training programs. I can tell you that for a fact, since I used to help run a training program. You use those videos, you use those body cams to train officers that when they get out of the car, they should be ready for anything. Hands near the gun, marking the car with their prints. There's all kinds of protocols that they're supposed to utilize so that they don't get killed on the job. What's one thing they say at the police station as everybody leaves to go out on duty? Let's all go home tonight. That means let's not get killed out there, right? Let's not get hospitalized. Let's be vigilant. Let's be on let's be on high alert. Don't get caught with your pants down. It's a dilemma in the United States that they don't have in other countries. When you talk about other countries not using the level of force, and when I say other countries, I'm typically referring to Western industrialized nations that have more advanced political and law enforcement structures. You don't see the level of abuse because the cops don't have to fear that at any second they're going to be gunned down. Well, not in some of the countries. Now, interestingly, when I spent time in France, twice I visited France, I will tell you their gendarmes are unarmed. I understand that their cape is capable of being used as a weapon. I believe I was told that the gendarmes have a weighted thing in the base of their cape so they can use it as a defensive weapon. They've got the hat. The hat may be useful. But the gendarmes, at least in when I was there, did not carry a firearm. But I saw lots of firearms in the possession of police. I saw a lot of anti-terrorist police officers patrolling everywhere. And they were carrying rifles and some machine guns and sidearms. It was quite a thing. I walked down the Champs-Élysées, which is near the Arc de Triomphe, and there was a candy store on the Trump. And I stopped because the policeman was carrying a submachine gun in front of the candy store, and I wanted a picture, but I didn't get a good shot because I took it from down here because I was afraid if I did this, he would yell at me in French. I wouldn't know what he was saying. I'd freak out. I'd get upset. And so I tried to be inconspicuous, and I'm sorry because every time I look at that picture, I think, if I had gotten a clear shot so you could see that's a candy store in the background, man, that would have been cool. Anyways, so in Italy, the police do have guns, but they're not known for being quick triggered. Well, here was where I was going. If the populace isn't armed, then the cop is not as worried that somebody's going to step out of the car and shoot them. So they're probably a little bit more relaxed. If they've been in many encounters and they've been violent, and they usually were resolved with a fist fight, and believe me, the bobbies in England pretty good at fighting. They don't take much guff. They're not armed. The bobbies aren't armed. If a bobby gets in trouble, he calls for a special police officers who carry firearms, and they come. But they have to be called. They're not typically who's patrolling. So why? Well, they don't have guns generally available in England, or generally available in France, or in Italy, or any of the Western European countries. So, and in Asia, everybody's not armed. So you don't typically have police officers that are all, strung out. So we have this paradigm, this dynamic in the United States. It's fairly unique. There are countries where guns are fairly prevalent. There's gun bazaars in parts of Africa that are greater than any gun show you've ever been to in the United States. But if the population isn't generally armed, and the worst that's going to happen is somebody's going to throw a bottle at you or throw a punch at you, maybe pull a knife on you. If you've got a nominal amount of protective gear, you can typically defend even against a knife. A knife is very deadly, but if your cape has a weight in it, you can effectively use a cape to thwart a knife attack while you're trying to come up with another reaction, another response other than simply defense. So, here on the one hand, we don't want these cops to be crazy. On the other hand, we have groomed them to be crazy. I'm telling you that police departments all over the country will run videos of officers who were killed in the line of duty or badly injured as a training mechanism, as a training tool. They'll show the officer that gets out, in fact, and hands a pen to this guy, and he uses the pen to almost kill her. There's another one where The guy's got his 9-year-old daughter there. The police officer is not aware that he's out on parole. She stopped him for a traffic offense. She's on the highway. She, pretextually wants to search his vehicle. That part I don't like. That was bullshit. But when she said, "Do you mind if I search your vehicle?" seeking consent, because consent is all you need to conduct a warrantless search. Otherwise, in the absence of consent, you're going to need probable cause to get a warrant. So she said, "Can I search the car?" And he kind of, yeah. And then he steals on her. He beats her half to death in front of his daughter. His daughter's screaming. I mean, this is all on the dash cam. She's screaming, "Oh, you can kill her, Dave." And he drove off with his daughter, and the police that responded found her jaw was just so badly damaged. She just beat her very badly. That gets shown to police officers everywhere. Be careful. You don't know who you're dealing with. She thought she was dealing with a guy, and she expected one thing, she got another. It's pretty freaked up way to run a country we have here. Yeah, well, you and I don't have anything to say about how this country is run. So if we take the facts of our environment and we apply them to the problems that we are trying to solve, it's a very complicated dynamic. And when people were using the term defund the police, people took that different ways. Even people who were claiming to want to defund the police, I believe, didn't understand just what that connoted. So we now know that a lot of people saw it as simply stripping a police department of all its resources, shutting it down if necessary. I think Minneapolis, Minnesota, maybe did something like that anyways. But there was the larger contingency of defund the police was actually advocating a reallocation of certain resources, financial and otherwise, to a mental health component for the police, to replace the police. That there were situations which begged for intervention that was nonviolent and was non-confrontational and was not necessary for the police to be there. Or if the police were there, they should only be there to protect the mental health workers that were responding. So that particular movement of defund the police, everybody kind of got thrown into one little bucket that said, these people saying defund the police, they want to just strip the city of police. They want to take, they don't want any police in the city of Chicago. They're talking about defunding the police. Now, if somebody was advocating that, that would be pretty crazy. And maybe they were, and maybe they got some interviews, maybe they got some notoriety. But in the main, as somebody who was advocating a reallocation of resources, I wasn't using defund the police as my battle cry. I was saying things like we need to change the training paradigm. I was more sophisticated in my condemnation of the police. And now I'm just here making a statement that with everything that's going on, we have this terrible, terrible, deadly dynamic between treat everybody with respect, non-violently as long as possible, with you need to be ready to kill somebody at a moment's notice because there's killers out here and they don't care that you're the police. And I've watched, I can't tell you how many videos that were used in for training purposes or not, didn't matter. I was in a milieu where I saw lots of shootings because I was training people with firearms. I wanted to train them when they need to react. How do you react before you're dead? Because reacting after you've been shot is a bad juju. So I frequently was trying to train people in the use of a handgun and how to utilize it to prevent violence, but in the presence of violence, how to survive. So, of course, we studied how do people get in a situation. Now, if I wasn't teaching law enforcement, I tried not to use law enforcement videos because that confuses the average Joe who thinks These guys that come in, they think they're going to be in a shootout like a cop is going to be. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You should be very clear on this. When a police officer engages in a shooting, a violent confrontation, win, lose, or draw, he's there. If the guy ducks behind the door, the police officer must pursue. That's part of the gig. If I'm in a shootout with a guy and he ducks behind the door and he can't see me, then I should probably split and wait for the cops to come, right? In other words, if I'm not in the line of sight, if there are barriers between me and a shooter that secure me, then I should be withdrawing. But a police officer has a different dynamic, a different task. If they get engaged in a shootout with a bad guy, their mandate is to pursue the bad guy, corral him, and see to his incarceration, which means that even if the guy has ballistic barriers, some sort of shield, that the police officer still has to risk moving forward towards this person, this target, and trying to control it without deadly force. You're asking a lot. So, cops are on edge, the population's on edge, and Texas, in its infinite wisdom, said, "Well, you know what we're going to do then? We're going to let anybody who wants carry a gun, and you don't need a license anymore." A license said this, and then I'm done. A license, a concealed carry license, tells you more than your driver's license. Here's what it is. It's superior for a police officer to find that the person they have pulled over legally possesses a concealed handgun license, or what we now call license to carry. It says that this person has not been arrested for a misdemeanor in the last 5 years. Arrested, okay? It says that this person's never been convicted of a felony, okay? It says that they have submitted themselves and their fingerprints to the government at some previous moment, and that they have passed whatever other training was required for this license. Now Texas is saying, yeah, that's too much. That's too much to ask of somebody. From now on, pretty much, if you're not supposed to have a gun, it's up to you to know you shouldn't have a gun, but we're not going to be involved. Seems like a strange time to be removing limitations, restrictions, and regulations around firearms when the world seems to be getting crazier with its firearms. That the prevalence of firearms in environments where it just simply doesn't belong. Shootings in homes, in schools, in workplaces, in police stations. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. All right, let's do some metta. Nice segue from extraordinary violence to loving kindness and goodwill. But I've got to get ready for meditation tonight. Okay? So, if you're not acquainted, this is a good time to pay attention. This is the part of the show that has instructions that accompany it. Here's the instruction. Bring your hand together before your heart. Bow your head, close your eyes. You look as if you're praying, as you should. Take a deep breath and relax. And then think to yourself, may I be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May I be free from anger, anxiety, and fear. And may this practice of metta, of goodwill, find me having greater peace and comfort in my life. May May my mother and father, my family members, and my friends, these persons whom I hold in great affection in my heart, be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May they too find the path that leads them to greater peace and comfort in their life. And to those persons that bother me, disturb me, persons that I have some sort of ill will or resentment towards, this is the perfect moment to simply set it aside, only briefly, and think to myself, may they be happy, healthy, free from all harm. May they be enjoying lives, comfort, and peace. And to all living beings, wherever they may be, throughout the universe, humans and non-humans. May you be the recipients of our collective goodwill. May all living beings be happy, healthy, free from harm. May all living beings live their lives in safety, comfort, and peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. If you mandate King Goldberg must wear a mask, you could be fined $1,000 by the governor. Welcome to Texas, huh, Mark? How did we get here? You know, I mean, you live in Austin, it's kind of liberal, I guess. They tell me that. Except that's where all these bad people live. And then there's Dallas, we're sort of liberal. What are we doing in Texas? You know, it sure isn't the politics, babe. It sure ain't the politics. All right. Well, thank you, Joan and Kathy, Mark and Ann and Chris and Becky and Rachel and anybody else I may have missed. I didn't see Lisa tonight. I miss her. Kathy, you're there. So y'all stay out of trouble. And if you want, let's do this again tomorrow. I'm going to get some dental work done at 1. So maybe I'll have some story to report, maybe about my flirtation with the dentist. She is a fox, but she's not interested in me. Anyways, I digress. See y'all later. Peace out.